Hello friends and fellow endurance athletes, I'm Jake Mazzone, coach and director of Vegas Running Connection. I formed this running team, a nonprofit organization, to sponsor, coach, support, and equip distance runners with goals to compete on the international level. The majority of our team hail from low-income or underprivileged households in southern Nevada. One of Team V.R.C's organizational goals includes providing free athletic community newsletters and regular YouTube broadcasts on the topic of distance running and endurance sports. Those can be found on our website, so check out the About tab on our YouTube page. With this series of YouTube broadcasts, we are further committing to our goal of providing free advice to the endurance running community. Although most of what I discuss pertains to distance runners, our advice will also apply to any endurance sport such as triathlons, soccer, bicycle racing, or even full court basketball. As a brief introduction to this video, I've designed this broadcast as a private screening to the 5-man team I'm currently coaching. I'm therefore presenting directly to a small group of elite level college-age runners, and not to the general population. If you happen to stumble upon this unpromoted YouTube video, please keep that in mind. I'm sharing secrets to athletes that have goals of competing against the world's best someday and are currently running in excess of 60 miles a week. This information is not geared to the average YouTube endurance runner that just happened to do a search for tips or training ideas. Now, for Team V.R.C, I'd like you guys to keep in mind that these 5 laws of distance running are not mutually exclusive. That means they can and will intertwine and work together at the same time and will operate in unison rather than separately. Although what you're about to see is how I personally view successful distance running as a coach, some of what I'm going to share comes from the private notes of Olympic coaches of the past, including Egloy, Lydiard, Daniels, McDaniels, Vigil, Cerruti, and Dellinger. It's therefore my interpretation of their notes mixed with my notes and experience that you'll be hearing about today. There has never been a comprehensive presentation of these laws published in print or in video, so I hope you appreciate the multitude of hours that have gone into this video so that you can pass from being just great regional runners to the success associated with being a world-class athlete. No price tag can be placed on that type of success. If you're not part of the team I'm coaching, in return for these priceless secrets, I'd kindly ask that you go to the donation page of the website listed on this YouTube channel and provide our team with an ongoing or one-time tax-deductible donation. If you're a high school track coach, you may want to turn this video off now because you might get offended that much of what I discuss is in direct opposition to what you believe to be correct. Okay, so let's get down to business. The first law of distance running I'd like to share with you is the law of restraint. The U.S. is a nation of overachievers and workaholics. I'd venture to say that this is why our country falls short as an international power in distance running. By being overachievers, we become overtrainers, running way too many miles and the wrong types of miles that end up causing injury. I continue to see athletes and their coaches overtraining and hoping for miracles during a competitive racing cycle, which can be a 10, 14, or 21-day racing cycle, and on the reverse side of that coin, undertraining during the preseason build-up phase. So what the law of restraint is teaching us is to keep our head out of the clouds and avoid fantasizing about winning Olympic gold or breaking a world record. We are being taught that we must slowly but surely transform that dream into reality by hard work done a little bit at a time. We must eat the large melon bite by bite instead of cramming the whole thing into our mouth. So let's not be afraid to start out our quest for greatness in small doses, because there's no embarrassment in that. That's why I coach you guys opposite to what your high school coaches were doing when they forced you to do hard repeats and intervals just days before key races. I know that does nothing but injure and discourage all but a few that can withstand the stress. We're in no hurry. This is a multi-year training program, and I'll gradually subject you to more and more stress and pain when the time is right. Along with that, you'll become progressively stronger and fitter. If we take things in moderation and avoid extremes or premature excessiveness in our workouts, then when other guys are dropping out of races, you'll be surging to victories. We have to keep in mind to think about running as a child does, and while taking the sport serious, not take ourselves too seriously. If you make it too hard on yourself because you have a little talent, or you overanalyze the training and secretly run more than what I prescribe, then you'll end up overstressing your system and defeating yourselves. Obviously, it's better to undertrain than overtrain. Achieving greatness is a slow process, sometimes up to 8 years in building up to an international level athlete. For every single runner that makes it to the very top, there are 1,000 others with the same talents and abilities that are ruined because they didn't follow the law of development. The only way you will achieve great success in running and satisfy your destiny is to understand how this law fits hand in hand with the law of restraint. In your mind's eye, I'd like you to think about progressing systematically from one pace level to the next. Maybe think about an obstacle course. You can't climb the rope over the high wall unless you run through the short tunnels first. Likewise, we can't run a 70-mile week unless we have experienced several weeks of 50, 53, and 55 miles successfully and progressively. I personally believe that great distance runners are made under a training system that does not exceed 75 miles per week of running. We may go 80 miles for a few weeks in the build-up toward a half marathon, but as you know, our training is not full marathon oriented. Therefore, we will not beat ourselves up with workouts and mileage geared toward races in excess of 13 miles. This only causes injuries as we are forced off of soft surfaces onto hard tarmac and its associated pounding, struggling, and resulting inefficient running style that the roads create. Therefore, when we marry the law of restraint with the law of development, you will see yourself improving without serious injury. We will successfully go from 45-mile weeks on the low side after we take our twice-annual breaks to 50-mile weeks, to 53-mile weeks, and eventually to averaging about 10 or 11 miles daily just before we back off into a 21 or 14-day competitive cycle. So to reiterate, our competitive racing cycles will be preceded by a conditioning or preseason phase that may include a little overtraining and a couple of time trials that give us a baseline to measure your performance from. We will then set our goals against your baseline and continue to monitor the slow progression toward the ultimate goal of exceeding your personal expectations as we aim for peak performances later on. In my opinion, and the opinion of many great coaches, this is only achieved by giving athletes a moderate break in the amount of weekly miles ran as we go from race to race, sometimes 3 per month. I'm therefore replacing some of your hard speed workout and repeats with the actual race. And of course, our uncomfortable 3-mile workouts within 15 minutes of finishing our races. This gives me the assurance that undertraining during our racing season will help you guys in building extra energy and valuable momentum toward a peak and personal best later in the cycle. It's within the ongoing practice of the law of acclimation that a distance runner truly gets a grasp on how important it is to adjust, change, and otherwise upset one's beliefs and practices with regards to distance running. I'm continuing to use this law to teach you how to become accustomed to changing environments that we train, race, or live in. This law teaches us how important it is to acclimate to our body's weaknesses, such as gait and stride length, and also adapt to our running terrain, outdoor weather, altitude, and current mileage regimen. For example, we learn to be flexible with our workouts and adjust them if need be based on how we are handling them. Another example is that when we are preparing for a key race at altitude, say northern Nevada, we will acclimate and adapt to that by driving to local mountain ranges 2 to 3 times weekly for the month leading up to the event. Another way we use this law is in relation to our own biomechanical running form. As a few of you know, it's very easy to do the low knee shuffle during a workout. I have thus incorporated high knee turnover drills to help you improve that small deficiency. Another example is as we approach cross-country season or road races with several hills, we will acclimate to those races through running hills more often and using the right form, approaching, clearing, and going down the hill. At this point, you realize how difficult it is to surge and change pace during the last 600 meters of a 5K race, particularly if we go out with the lead pack. The law of acclimation prompts me to teach you to run 400 to 600 meter surges at the end of each hard workout day. This will acclimate your system to endure that extra stress as we approach important racing events. I hope by now you are getting the hint and digesting what acclimation means as it relates to changing and adjusting who we are and what we do as distance athletes. Emil Zatopek of the Czech Republic was one of the greatest distance runners of all time, particularly when you look at what he did in the early 1950s. He lived half of the year in icy conditions, making training outdoors almost impossible. He unknowingly practiced the law of acclimation by filling his bathtub partially with warm water, then lining the bottom with several towels. The amazing act that followed was that he would run in place up to 2 hours in the bathtub and on the towels. Remarkable, and something I'd expect no less from a world-class athlete. You see, you guys, to make it to the top in this sport, you have to do what others are unwilling to do while enduring the type of pain that only a few souls are willing to handle. I'd like to preface this section by clarifying that deviation does not mean that we're deviant in our character or criminal in our mind. This very important law of distance running relates to departure from what most people practice and teach about distance training. As a case in point, Zatopek and Egloy were kings of the stop-and-go interval workouts, all done on a track. Lydiard was the grandfather of long, slow distance running with little speed work deployed during most of the season. Although the two training methods are different, they follow a linear path with little deviation from the norm. The law of deviation not only relates to the types of workouts we do, such as speed play on grassy terrain or an 8-mile pace run on surfaces ranging from dirt to grass, but this law also encompasses the topics of changes in breathing patterns, food types we consume, elevations or altitudes we run in, and even the types of shoes we wear for specific workouts. The concept here is non-repetitive variances in the way we go about our sport. Okay, so if you think back on some of our workouts, I may utilize this law 8 to 10 times in a single day. See if you can count how many times the law of deviation is used in the following sample workout. After warming up 2 miles on both synthetic track and grass surfaces, we work on 120 meter speed tempo versus swing tempo stride length drills. It is followed by a 3-mile pace run on grass, averaging 640 per mile, while focusing on filling the lobes of our lungs to capacity on each breath. Afterwards, a 5-minute break of jogging at 8 minutes per mile. Then we go right into 3 times 1 mile repeats on a synthetic track surface using different paces such as 5:30, 5:20, and 5:15 per mile pace. After a 3-minute water break, we run another 2 miles of a warm down at 7:20 per mile pace on the roads. Okay, if you were listening, how many times did I incorporate the law of deviation into this workout? After rewinding the video and careful note taking, your answer should be 11 or 12. That picture is my idea of a fun run. One of the most important elements of training you guys is to avoid injury and to keep your running surfaces soft, like in the picture. Long distance road running and track intervals fail miserably compared to running a natural speed play where everything changes from surfaces, dirt and grass for example, to the pace. When you run in circles constantly on a track or a hard tarmac blacktop, you end up repeating the same motions all of the time, which end up draining, weakening, and defeating the distance athlete. The muscles and tendons in our legs are similar to springs, and the track circuit or roads only take the natural bounce out of our springs, sometimes causing permanent injuries. God didn't create asphalt. He created dirt, leaves, grass, and trails. When we stick to those surfaces, injuries are brought down to a dull roar instead of an ongoing fire. Part of the law of deviation teaches us to train out of instinct, sometimes not knowing exactly what we will do until we arrive at the practice location. Although I literally have thousands of workouts in my head and on paper that I can give you guys, we will not go through the motions like zombies copying a printed training schedule out of a textbook. That's for dimwits without creativity or true knowledge of this essential running law. It's important for you guys to know that over the past 35 years, I've probably only taken about 20 months from running off and from training at a level of at least 30 miles per week. During that amount of time, I've been coached by world-class athletes and Olympic coaches, but I've also been coached by imbeciles that have taught me what not to do. A great coach inspires through demonstration, and that's why I can run the workouts with you and occasionally finish the hard days while you guys drop off before everything is complete. A few of you may be able to run faster than me, but your goal should be to run harder than me to the point of complete exhaustion, and during the races to the point of collapse. As you know, that's what I personally do and hope to see more of from y'all. Please remember, I don't coach and run this way so an old man can boost his ego and beat a 20-year-old. Rather, it's to personally show you that if I can do it, you can do it. You see, if a coach can't do it, he can't teach it. That's why yours truly has little respect for beer-bellied track coaches that ran 7 races in high school, then gave up, only to later become a teacher that wanted a side job coaching track so that they can earn an extra $650 per season. That reminds me of an outstanding line by Jack Black in the movie School of Rock. He said, "If you can't do, you teach. If you can't teach, you teach Jim." you could end up in a picture just like that. So as a final note to the law of deviation, I'd like to briefly discuss how it relates to our recovery days and vacation days. During the days when we're not practicing together, or we are on the 2 to 3 week break that we take twice annually, we need to stay active and use some variance in our activities, such as alternative sports. I'm going to start off with a list of sports that I do not recommend a distance runner do, even during vacation time. If you decide to bypass my recommendation and you get injured, I'll make sure we figure out a just penalty for your transgression. Okay, do not play football unless it's tossing the ball back and forth with a friend, nor basketball unless it's easy hoop shooting and not a formal game. Stay away from baseball altogether for a few reasons that I won't go into. Tennis, I do not recommend, also for a few reasons. Use your imagination. Surfing, and also soccer I don't recommend. A competitive runner's feet are not made to pound on balls of any sort. What I do recommend is push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, leg lifts, planks, and also swimming, hiking, biking, but not mountain biking, kayaking, but not in rapids, rowing or sculling, archery, bowling, and maybe a soft racket sport like badminton, which can be very fun and competitive. With regards to volleyball, if it's co-ed and easy family style, yes. If it's hardcore beach style, no. I need you to always think about our eventual goal of international competition and how injuries can potentially ruin that goal and greatly set you back. Just like a concrete or steel building is reinforced to withstand wind and earthquakes, I use the law of reinforcing to add elements to your overall fitness and strength. When you think about this law, it's synonymous with increasing and augmenting as it relates to getting tougher in workouts and enduring pain. This distance running law takes into account an intermixing of deviation, acclimation, development, and restraint laws. For example, if we culminate many types of workouts throughout the season using restraint and moderation, slowly building to a peak, you'll find your total system has become hardened to the discomfort and adapted to the stress. I therefore continue to use alternative forms of strengthening and conditioning with twice daily running, hills, isometrics like planks and L-sits, surging for 400 meters at the end of a hard workout, balancing our running surfaces, and teaching what it's like to run flat out to complete exhaustion without giving in to the intense hurt. You see, it's not extremely important exactly what we run on our hard workout days like a textbook coach would believe, but rather that you trained with me in a flat out effort and completed the workout a little quicker and a little stronger than you did the last time. Part of what a good distance running coach does is to prepare athletes for the pain associated with competition. Remember what I say during our hard workouts: if it's not hurting, you're not doing your job. I'm a firm believer that the law of reinforcing teaches us that we should not try anything in competition unless we first have perfected it in practice. Case in point is the pain associated with kicking at the end of a hard race. I believe that an early kick is much better than a late kick, for example, a late kick during the last 300 meters. Therefore, we will continue to practice making a move with 600 meters to go in 5K races and 1,000 meters to go in 10K races. Now, if we are fortunate enough to run very tough, even split miles during the race, the kick is less important. But nonetheless, this type of practice will reinforce our systems to handle even more effort late in the race. There's nothing more sad to me than a mature distance runner that continues to race like a high schooler. This is usually the majority of runners in community 5K races, all going out like wild mustangs in the first mile or so, then slowly but surely dying off during the crucial middle section of the race, only to think they can work a miracle by sprinting the last 200 meters. What a delusion. So, the million-dollar question I'm asking you guys will not only separate you from mediocre runners, but will identify you if you are world-class material. Do you really love intensive and sometimes painful training and the associated head-to-head competition? The greatest gift you can give me for all the hours I put into your progress, and without pay I might add, is telling me that you completely enjoy running, loving every minute of it while never tiring of it. There is only a very small percentage of distance runners that can say that and never complain about a single aspect of the training and preparation, almost being a glutton for punishment with an enormous appetite for the intensity. If you cannot say that with all your heart, then it's probably best you run home to mama rather than run with athletes around you that truly have Olympic goals. We are not a social club. We are here to run big and go places with our sport. Why are there sparkles around my head? You're probably asking yourself. Well, it's because I'd like to share with you a little wisdom. You have to understand, as I know you are all Christians, that there is an inexhaustible supply of momentum and strength from the Lord who actually created it. When you trust completely in God for your greatness in running, you are actually practicing your faith the way it should be. It is written, bodily exercise will partially help you, but godliness will help you in all things, providing you with assurance during this life and that which is to come. So guys, to wrap things up, if you go back through the presentation and take notes, you'll realize how important it is for you to comprehend and practice these 5 laws of distance running with me. If you're looking to make it to the Olympic trials and beyond, as that's our goal, then you'll be well advised to study this video several times because your running career could depend on it. I have to walk a fine line as your coach by being strict, but also helpful and considerate. My goal is to show you by example that if I'm able to gut through the workout, you can do it better and faster. Sometimes it may seem that I'm being a bit bossy during the process, but I believe if you're not getting direction in this way, then your performances and success will be less, maybe much less. Always remember that I truly care about you and your success, even if I don't seem overly pleased with a given performance. By employing all of these 5 laws into my own personal training schedule, I've become the fastest man in Nevada for my age group in races ranging from 3,200 meters to 10K, and personally will not be satisfied until I win the National Senior Olympics in 2016 and get an invitation to the World Games. If you guys ended up having that same drive and passion for your sport, and considering your age and this type of coaching, well, the sky's the limit. For everyone not on Team V.R.C. that found this broadcast, I sincerely hope it has helped you to understand the important unpublished laws of distance running. If you are a very competitive runner, even a triathlete, you'll be well advised to watch this again before continuing your training program. If you feel it may help other athletes to hear this truth, then you have my permission to send the YouTube link to anyone that is a serious, competitive distance runner, but not weekend warriors. Please provide your comments directly below the video and select the like icon on YouTube. Send a Facebook request to Vegas Running, 2 separate words. Follow me on Twitter using the @ and Vegas Running, all one word. Also visit the Vegas Running Connection website and select the donation page. Please give to our goals of helping underprivileged distance runners that are working very hard to be national champions. And always remember that with small amounts of talent and large amounts of hard work, you can be great in distance running.